I know the focus of a lot of the stories and the discussion on this matter have been on the settlement agreements. And those are important, but it occurs to me those are past history now. Those complaints have all been settled, and I guess people have moved on. I'm more interested in what's going on right now and in the immediate past. In regard to these projects, you've given us a handout here. I have basically two questions I'd like you to address. What has been your experience over the last 2 or 3 years here as far as the quality of work that it has been done in connection with these projects? And number two, could you explain in layman's language so that I can understand how you have achieved these savings? You've got some pretty impressive numbers here. It's one thing to see numbers on a piece of paper, but I wonder if you could just explain to me what you've done, what the changes have been, so that you've been able to realize these savings for the taxpayer.
I'd be happy to. First of all, I'd like to say that when you make changes in an organization, strategic and structural changes within an organization, many times positive change requires some very difficult and frankly sometimes heart-wrenching decisions to be made. I know that those decisions can affect employees, can affect their families, can affect their egos, can affect a lot of things. Believe me, I don't take those decisions lightly. They're not easy decisions to make. I didn't just think of this one afternoon in my office. I spent many, many days and hours thinking about it, trying to figure out the best solution to the problem. So when the decision was made to reorganize, and the fact that that would affect employees' lives, I want everyone to know that it bothered me greatly, and it still does. Excuse me. That's not to say that I shouldn't make those decisions. I wasn't appointed to this position to just make easy decisions. I also wasn't appointed to this decision or this position, at least as I understood it, to sit behind a desk, make sure things continue to run smoothly the way they always had. I was appointed here to see if there were any changes that could be made in state government for the betterment of state government and for the taxpayers of this great state. And that's exactly what this change was. I've had 35 years of experience in commercial and industrial construction. As a result of that, I spent a lot of time. It's a big department. A lot of different things happen in our department. I had to spend a lot of time listening to people that had been there for many years just to get an idea of what our department actually did for the state and how diverse those services were. One of the areas that was fairly easy for me to get up to speed on was in the design and construction area. After having 35 years of experience, I understood that much better than a lot of the other areas, which I now understand, but it takes a little while to get up to speed on those areas. One of my concerns was not the performance of the employees. This had nothing to do with the performance of employees. This had to do with a system of managing our state construction projects that was, in my opinion, not productive, cumbersome, not producing the results that it should. And after further analysis and thinking, I decided a reorganization was in the best interest of the citizens in the state, and we made that decision and reorganized. It was a completely different method of managing our construction projects. It went from having actual state-employed project managers to having professional construction management firms hired to manage our construction projects, giving us a huge jump forward on not only flexible and scalable workload adjustments as we needed them, with our volume of construction as it goes up and down, but also with technology. We now have state-of-the-art technology, and whenever that technology changes, As you know, in private business, that usually changes pretty quickly. So all of that came along with the hiring of those professional construction management firms. So in essence, we went from being a construction entity with project managers to being a large owner, which is what we are, with owners representatives dealing with our construction managers, who are now the project managers on our construction projects, and the departments themselves that had construction needs. We actually had 9 positions in that area. 7 of them were filled at the time of the reorganization. So we laid off 7 employees, and again, not performance related. I never even reviewed their performance. It had to do with a new way of doing business with the state. We laid off 7 of those individuals. We replaced them with, actually we didn't replace them, we hired 3 individuals as senior resource managers, and those senior resource managers dealt with the departments that had construction needs as liaisons between those departments and the Department of Administrative Services and the construction managers that we had hired. As a result of that, and the Legislative Services Agency did an actual issue review on that, we saved $730,000 per year in operational costs. We, through claims and time, this last fiscal year, we saved over $915,000. We're projected this fiscal year to save over $1.5 million, and if that trend continues, with the $376 million worth of construction we have right now, we'll have a savings of over $12 million.
Thank you for your answer, Director Carroll. I apologize for the Senator's time.
That's fine.
Thank you. So, Representative Pettigill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Carroll, I had the opportunity to listen to the testimony yesterday from the 4 individuals, and there were some claims that administrative rules were not filed, or they were filed, but they weren't followed. And I wanted to go over with at least the 4 that you know about and the other ones. What are they talking about? Was it at the grievance level, at the settlement level, at the record level? Do you have any idea if they made claims to you?
Representative Pettigill, I have no idea what they're referring to.
After reading their initial grievances and the appeals, initially it looked like the claims were that it was politically motivated, but yesterday Senator Garrett asked each one of them and they all said no. But one of the overriding claims through those 4 people was that the rules were not followed. So I pulled all the rules. I was trying to see if I could see any discrepancy from what was in rule to what was not done, and I couldn't really find anything. So I was hoping you could help with that.
If I had any knowledge of somewhere where we were in non-compliance with the rules, I would certainly tell you, but I have no idea what that would be.
Another subject that came up was about a blacklist. Could you tell me what that is and what the future of that do not hire list is?
Certainly. First of all, there is no blacklist. There is no do not hire list. There is no list. The state has no list. What the state does have is a procedure and a policy that's according to state law and code that says this can happen in one of 2 ways, either through mutual agreement of management and the employee, or through specific criteria that's outlined in code that disqualifies an individual from future state employment. At that point, there's a code put on that individual's employee record. So if they apply for a job in state employment that code comes up and notifies the hiring agency that they are disqualified from state employment. At that point, their application is returned to them along with a letter that gives them the procedures for an appeal if they feel they want to appeal that decision. So the fact, the word list, I don't know where that came from, but we have no list. And there's no way anybody could tell that they were coded as disqualified. Well, they could, but others could tell they were coded as disqualified unless they actually applied for another state position.
So the employee would be notified, their applications returned, and it would be completely transparent to them that they were coded, as you said, to not be eligible for state employment.
That's right, along with a letter that gives them the procedures they need to follow to appeal that decision.
Okay, would it be possible to see that letter that goes out?
Oh,
so
sure,
that
we could get you a copy of that.
Then in the settlement, you said that the four you were involved with were drafted by, the PERB helped with the drafting of that. Do you know if that is consistent through all of these? So if it went through an appeal with the PERB board and there was an arbitrator or a mediator, that mediator would be the one drafting those?
The mediator would be the one that would be getting the two parties to agree to the terms and conditions of each agreement, yes.
Who are the mediators? Are they employees of, who are they?
They're appointed by PERB and they're employees of, they're administrative law judges, I believe, at PERB. Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you, thank you.
Chair, Senator Hughes.
Thank you, Director Carroll. I think one of the basic questions Iowa taxpayers want to know is, why did you need confidentiality agreements? What was there to hide?
I'll speak to the four agreements that I was involved in because that's the ones I can give you factual answers on. The other ones I didn't have any knowledge about. The reason we included them in these agreements is that we were negotiating with four different individuals towards settlement agreements, basically all within the same time frame. The practice of the confidentiality clauses was used in these instances so that one individual would not settle a claim and share that information with the other individuals that had not settled their claims yet, in an effort to mitigate the amount of money that the taxpayers were having to pay to settle these claims. That was the reason we included them.
And Carol Frank in her testimony said that Brian Lamb contacted her attorney with $2,000 in hush money, asking if she would accept extra money to remain quiet. Where did you get the $2,000 authorization to offer that $2,000 to Ms. Frank?
I don't think that's a true statement, Senator.
So I'd have to ask her to do more documentation. We don't believe that's true. We don't believe that they called back with another offer of $5,000. She rejected the two.
I don't think that's true either.
Tell me a little bit about when you were appointed by the governor. I know the governor has a goal of reducing government by 15%, and I just am curious as to what kind of communications that you have with the governor's office, what kind of communication you had with the governor's office as you were working through your reorganization plan that included the September 1st layoff.
I want to make sure I understand your question. The first part of that question was what kind of conversations did I have with the governor's office prior to my appointment?
Well, when you were appointed, did the governor let you know it was his expectation to reduce government by 15%?
Yes.
Okay. And then did the governor's office play a role in your reorganization where employees were non-contract merit employees were removed from their jobs?
The only role that the governor's office would have played is in the normal procedure of approval of reduction in force plans. And that procedure is the department puts that reduction in force plan together. It goes to the Human Resources Department, who signs off on it. It comes to my desk. This is for all departments, by the way, not just desk. It comes to my desk. I sign off on it. Goes to the Department of Management. They sign off on it. Goes to the Chief of Staff. They sign off on it. So they would have been aware of the reduction in force and the reasons for it and would have approved all of that.
Okay, so the chief of staff of the governor realized that you were going to be removing several non-contract merit employees from their positions with the state of Iowa because he would have to sign off on it on behalf of Governor Branstad.
Yes.
Correct. You know, you mentioned that you've saved the state a little over $700,000. Are you allowed to incorporate that savings each year in your budget amount? Isn't it only really a one-time expenses? Once those jobs are off the books, then you can't continue to keep counting. It'd be like, you know, counting back to 1983 when we let go of a certain amount of people that we keep moving that savings forward. It's like you've got your year and then you can't really count those dollars again. Am I correct in saying that?
Actually, I need just a bit of explanation here. Our department does not work like a lot of the other state departments. We do not receive, we receive a small appropriation for state accounting and some ceremonial services for the legislature. But the rest of our department works on a fee-for-service basis. So in reality, if we save money, our fees go down. So it saves everybody money. It doesn't just save our department money, it saves every department in the state money. So it operates more like a business than it does an appropriated state department, which is good for me because I understand it a little bit better than appropriations. But at the same time, it's as if a company being competitive finds a competitive advantage, only we're required to find that competitive advantage. So as we reduce our costs, everybody in state government benefits.
So as you went through the reorganization process, you let go of several highly qualified people all in one area. Was there ever a decision, did you not believe that these people who had worked in state government for multiple years, that they wouldn't be able to adapt to a new business model? It appears to me that they were never brought into the reorganization process to see if that might be something that they would be interested in helping DAS move forward with a new style of business.
Well, as I mentioned before, Senator, decisions like this are never easy. It takes a lot of thought, particularly with strategic reorganizations. All of these individuals were very qualified. I have no argument with that. I don't know of any performance issues. There may have been some, but that certainly wasn't the reason for the reduction in force or their layoff. The point behind it was their qualifications weren't the qualifications we needed for the new position. So it wasn't a matter of the fact that they were not qualified. Based on their resumes, based on their credentials, they're all very highly qualified individuals, but in our opinion, not qualified for the new positions and what we needed those new positions to do.
Mr. Woodley, it's my understanding from someone who testified last year that you had requested that they write the job description for their replacement. Is that accurate?
No, ma'am, I'm not familiar with what you're referring to, but it is not.
Ken Martin testified yesterday that he was told by you that you expected him to write the job description for his replacement. Is that not true?
That is not true.
Can you explain what happened?
Mr. Thornton was a part of the layoff plan. Mr. Thornton was not employed in the design and construction area, but he was employed through the capital complex maintenance area. And when I took my position here in state government, there were two different individuals that were kind of co-leading that area. And so the decision was made to have all reporting in that area go through one individual for more efficiency. And so Mr. Thornton was impacted by the layoff.